Hi, I'm Kara Pranikoff, friend and very happy colleague of Lindsay Lyons. Lindsay and I just led a series of workshops around circle practice and restorative conferences. So I wanted to take a minute today to talk to you about communication between teachers and families when you're taking on these kinds of practices. Before we take a look at a letter and I share kind of the components of strong communication, I just want to leave you with a kind of few thoughts about communication between educators and families. First and foremost, I think regular communication with the families in your classroom is crucial. It helps build trust and it helps families have an ongoing understanding of what's happening instructionally. It also allows you in that communication to articulate to families what's most important to you as an educator. All of this creates a really nice back and forth between teachers and families, which of course we know is best for kids. When you're communicating with families, you also want to make sure that you're articulating about any kind of practice that is new inside your classroom or perhaps families don't have a lot of exposure to. So, if you are somebody who is going to take on circle practice inside your classroom and or restorative conferencing, these are structures and practices that most families probably haven't experienced before. So you want to think about a letter home that will really explain to families why these practices are important, what the benefits are going to be for the community, and what it looks like for their children, your students, inside the classroom. So let's go ahead and take a look at what a letter like this might look like and the important components to explaining and communicating clearly with the families in your classroom. Okay, let's take a good look at a sample letter that can help you structure your communication with families as you take on circle practice and or restorative conferencing. The first thing that you want to make sure that you do is you want to explain to your families why you're taking on any particular practice in the classroom. What is the benefit to their children, your students, and to their instruction? So you can see this letter starts right off the bat being clear about the most important thing in the classroom is the creation of community. The rest of the paragraph then goes on to talk about how circles are one way that students can build community inside the classroom. It gives a sense of where this practice comes from, the research of it, and then I always like to provide some links to additional resources if families are interested. So you can see down at the bottom of that first paragraph, I've linked an article from Restorative Solutions that talks about the origin of circle practice because I want to honor the indigenous peoples of North America who taught us this practice that we use inside our classrooms. Because I know that this is a practice that many grown-ups in my class community have not seen, I want to kind of give them a sense, a flavor of the pieces of this practice. So I just went ahead and I bullet pointed. What's important is you want to either use some bullet points or some descriptions within a paragraph that can help families picture what this particular practice looks like in action. So here, I've been clear to say students sit in a circle. There is a talking piece which indicates who can speak. Everyone else is listening. And this notion that whatever is shared in circle stays in circle. I want parents and family members to have a sense of what I mean when I talk about circle practice. So these details help them picture it. Then the next piece of my letter talks about restorative conferences as working alongside circle practice. So you can see I've said here in alignment with circle keeping, students are learning to use restorative conferences as a way to solve conflict and to repair harm. So again, I name what the practice is and I say what it's going to do inside our community. It's going to help your children, my students, solve conflicts and repair harm. And then I talk about why it's important. This kind of practice, restorative conferences, stands in opposition to the traditional kind of punitive responses that I am aware that families are probably accustomed to from their own education. Then again, I have linked an article from New York University in case families want to know more about restorative conferences and their place inside schools. Then again, just like I did in circle practice, I've given some hallmarks, some elements of restorative conferences so that the families in my classroom can begin to picture what this work looks like in action. The participants, both the participants, meet with a facilitator. Students aren't doing this work on their own when they get started. Each person gets a chance to explain what's happened, and the person who has felt the harm gets to make some suggestions about what might repair the harm for them. So, when you are taking on any new practice inside your classroom at any time in the year, you want to think about communicating clearly to your families. You want to be clear about why you're taking on this practice, how it's going to help your students and their children. You want to give details that will allow them to imagine what this practice looks like. And of course, you want to give them some ways to find out more information if they're looking for it, and remind them that, of course, they can always be in touch with you. So I hope this template of a letter helps you if you're taking on these practices, or perhaps it will help you think about how to craft another letter about a different practice that you're starting in your classroom. Good luck!